as our framework of understanding and conceptualizing interest, we used Heedy and Reniger's 4-phase model of interest development. And so if you're going to study interest, you kind of need to study it over time because it's constantly developing. Youth are going through these phases and they don't just go one direction. You can also lose interest in things. It's sort of nested. So within situational interest, which is the first large phase, there's a triggered situational interest, which really is pretty short-lived. So think about, you go into chemistry class the first day and your chemistry teacher is up front and he does this amazing experiment where things blow up. So that might trigger a situational interest. You're like, oh wow, chemistry is so cool. And so that could only move into the next phase of situational interest, which would be maintained situational interest, if the teacher in that case could do more things throughout the class to keep kids interested enough that they want to learn the content. And so triggered situational interest can dissipate pretty quickly if there isn't a lot of external support and motivation happening to keep the kids going. Whereas emerging situational interest, there is some self-directed nature in that. Kids might, a kid with an emerging interest in situational interest might go home and look up a website on, how to do that experiment and maybe try to do it at home. But those phases are really characterized by this need for external support, whereas once you move into individual interest, an emerging individual interest is the first phase, which moves into I believe it's called enduring individual interest. And those are the interests that are most likely to correlate strongly with persistence in STEM and those outcomes we were talking about earlier, majoring in STEM majors, going on to STEM careers, because those are really self-generated. Those learners who have these maintained and enduring individual interests will seek out the resources and information they need to support that interest. They will learn more about it, so it's characterized not just by affective, emotional factors like they really like it, they feel positive about it, but it's also they have much more knowledge about it. They may become sort of amateur experts at things and just really know a lot about the topic that they're interested in. They have a lot of value for it. It's very relevant to them. And they increase in self-efficacy. They feel that they are good at that. That is something they can do and that they could show others how to do. And so it really is, interest is, this kind of multi-dimensional, it's pretty complex concept because you have these affective and cognitive factors that are kind of working together, but then the amount of each changes over time as learners go through different phases of interest. So for example, the situational interest is very affective and emotional. It's very much, oh, I really like that, and it just sparks that kind of, excitement about the topic or activity. Whereas as you move into the other phases, like in the individual interest phases, it's characterized a lot more by some of these cognitive components, a lot more knowledge, and a lot more value and self-efficacy for that topic. And most of that is self-generated at that point, and they don't need a lot of support from outside people or institutions. So we're measuring it in a large-scale survey where we can get a lot of kids to participate, and then a smaller number of interviews and sort of case studies. And so those really add richness to our understanding. But in the survey, we are asking questions that pertain to both the affective, the liking, or attitudinal portion of interest, and also the cognition part, their knowledge. How much do you know about this? How much do you value it? What's your self-efficacy level in STEM? And so we're going about it, trying to look at all of those different parts of interest development at the same time, and then kind of fleshing it out with the interview data, which also helps us understand how kids are finding the resources in their environment that allow them to support their interest development over time, or if they're not finding them,